Okay, so take a look at the device you're using right now. It feels wireless, right? Boundless, like magic pulled straight from the air. But what if I told you that the modern world, and I mean literally everything from your personal text messages to massive global stock exchanges, is actually tethered together by a massive physical and incredibly hidden infrastructure? In this explainer, we're stripping away the whole illusion of the cloud and taking you deep into the cinematic reality of our modern civilization. We're going to explore the internet's absolute biggest secret, the vast, unseen network of undersea cables that quite literally run the world.
Now, I want you to imagine a scenario with me. What if you woke up tomorrow morning, reached for your phone, and the internet had simply stopped working? And I don't mean a slow connection, I'm talking about a complete, catastrophic global blackout. Think about that for just a second. It's a pretty terrifying thought, isn't it? But to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the hidden infrastructure we're talking about today, we first have to understand exactly what is at stake if it were to just vanish.
Within literally seconds, you'd see this cascading global chaos begin. Global banking systems, completely frozen. Social media goes totally dark. The massive financial districts in New York, London, Tokyo, Singapore, hubs that rely on ultra-fast digital commerce, they'd grind to an absolute halt. Cloud computing infrastructure fails. Governments lose their primary lines of communication. Even global trade logistics and certain GPS-reliant systems would start to fracture. And the crazy thing is, this isn't science fiction. This is exactly what happens when the physical backbone of our digital world gets severed. You know, when most of us think about how the internet connects different continents, we tend to look up. There's this massive public misconception that our data just bounces through the sky, beamed down from these advanced satellites orbiting the Earth. We picture this totally wireless, satellite-driven internet, beaming signals down to our laptops and phones. But the reality? It isn't up in the stars at all. It's buried in the dark, crushing depths of the ocean floor. And it really all comes down to a single staggering number: 95%. More than 95% of all international internet traffic travels entirely underwater. Let that sink in for a minute. It completely shatters the whole satellite myth. When you send a photo to a friend across the globe or you're streaming a movie hosted on a server on another continent, that data is definitely not flying through space. It is actually racing across massive underwater cables lying on the darkest, most remote ocean floors on Earth. So let's dive into Section 1, the hidden deep-sea network. We're going to map out exactly what this invisible infrastructure actually is. Because trust me, once you realize it's there, you can't unsee it. We're talking about critical technological infrastructure, hiding right there in deep ocean environments, quietly powering every single aspect of modern human life. The real magic here is the technology inside the cables, fiber optics. I mean, we're not talking about thick, clunky tubes of copper. At their core, these cables contain tiny glass strands, some literally as thin as a human hair. They work by transmitting digital data as continuous streams of light. It is pure technological magic. When you visualize global internet traffic, picture these massive pulses of light moving through glass fiber strands at blistering speeds, crossing entire oceans in milliseconds. And this physical light speed transmission is exactly why these underwater cables are exponentially faster and infinitely more reliable than any satellite connection could ever be. And you know, this isn't exactly a brand new concept, even if the tech has evolved like crazy. The whole journey begins all the way back in the 1850s. Back then, it was just rudimentary telegraph cables slowly tapping out Morse code across the Atlantic. Fast forward to the 1990s, and we see the revolutionary shift to fiber-optic internet cables, turning those slow mechanical taps into roaring digital streams. But jump to the 2020s. Well, today, the builders of this mega infrastructure aren't just your traditional telecommunications firms anymore. This hidden world is now primarily funded and expanded by major tech giants. We're talking Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon. They are the ones actually laying down the physical lifelines of the modern economy. Moving right along to Section 2, Global Data Superhighways. Picture viewing the Earth from space, but instead of seeing city lights, you see these glowing digital connections between continents, linking up major digital hubs and cable landing stations on coastlines all over the globe. These are the major global routes powering our world. You've got these massive data superhighways connecting North America and Europe, the US and Asia, Europe and Asia, alongside these vast trans-Pacific routes. But what's absolutely crucial to understand here is how incredibly concentrated these pathways are. A massive amount of global trade, cloud computing, and international communication relies on just a few densely packed routes traversing the ocean floor. It's an absolute masterpiece of technological sophistication for sure, but it's also a massive bottleneck. Which brings us to Section 3, the network's vulnerability. Because despite being literal backbone of modern civilization, this network is shockingly fragile. Think about it. We've built the most important infrastructure in human history, and we've basically just left it sitting at the bottom of the ocean. You might think the biggest threats to the internet are these complex, sophisticated cyber attacks, but the reality is surprisingly ordinary. The vast majority of cable damage actually comes from ships crossing above critical cable routes and just accidentally dropping their anchors, or commercial fishing trawlers snagging the cables with their heavy nets. That's a constant hazard. And then, of course, you have the sheer force of nature. Natural disasters, underwater landslides, ocean floor earthquakes. These are the mundane, everyday physical dangers that are constantly lurking in the deep ocean, threatening to sever our vital connections at any moment. Let's actually walk through a realistic cascading scenario so you can see just how fragile this all is. Step 1. A massive cargo ship in a busy strait drops its anchor in the wrong place. Step 2. A critical undersea cable gets snagged and severed. The light simply stops flowing. Step 3. Almost instantly, cloud computing networks that route data through that specific path experience severe latency, or they just completely crash. Financial markets that rely on high-frequency trading between two continents, disrupted. And suddenly, submarine cable repair ships have to be scrambled. They're out there, operating in remote, stormy oceans, literally trying to fish a broken glass thread off the seafloor, all while millions of users experience internet blackouts. All of that from one single dropped anchor.
All right, Section 4, a new global battlefield.
Now, accidental damage is one thing, but we are entering an era where these cables represent a new global battlefield. We have to escalate the stakes here from simple accidents to the tense reality of international geopolitics and intentional disruption. Because 95% of global data flows through these specific known pathways, they've quietly become some of the most contested and strategic national security assets on Earth. Nations fully recognize that controlling, tapping, or cutting these cables offers immense power. They're prime targets for intelligence gathering. They represent massive cybersecurity threats if compromised. So, as a result, the ocean floor is now this silent theater for growing competition among major world powers. The physical internet is, quite literally, a geopolitical chessboard.
And finally, Section 5, the fragile modern world. It's super easy to get lost in the massive scale of ocean topography and global geopolitics, but this hidden infrastructure directly connects to your daily, personal reliance on the network. I absolutely love this quote from our source material. Beneath the oceans lies one of the most important pieces of infrastructure ever built. We walk around every single day completely dependent on a hidden layer of the world we never actually see. It's a profound realization when you stop to think about it. Human civilization has essentially built this massive nervous system for the planet, and then we just submerge the whole thing in the sea.
So if you take away anything from this, remember this. The illusion of a wireless world is just that. It's an illusion. It is completely held together by fragile physical threads on the ocean floor. Every single text message you send, every video call you make to your family, every online payment you authorize, and every multi-billion-dollar international trade, it all depends entirely on a hidden network of glass and light operating in the cold, dark depths of the ocean. Which kind of leaves us with one massive, lingering question to ponder. If this hidden infrastructure stopped working today, is the modern world actually prepared for the impact? We've built an incredible, highly interconnected global society, but as we've seen in this explainer, the whole shebang rests on the most fragile of physical foundations. It's definitely something to think about the next time you connect to Wi-Fi. Keep questioning the hidden systems that power your world.